Episode 40 of the Long Haul Podcast. Dude, episode 40, man.
Should we crack the champagne?
It's been a long time. I'm trying to think now. Obviously we skipped a few weeks, but it's been more than a year because I think we started like March 2019 or something, right?
Maybe I think we didn't we start like 1 week or two before the long haul was
something like that. Well, whatever. Episode 40. I'm 9. This is Gary. Hey guys. Bunch of stuff to talk about as always. We have been, as you know, reviewing the hero colors as Valve has asked for feedback, and we get some feedback from them this week. They posted another patch, if you will, or another post, if you will, talking about how they want feedback for green this week. But at the same time, they announced or they gave us some tiny bits of what came out of the survey regarding red. Did you have a look at that? Because there's some kind of interesting pieces of information that there, I think.
There's at least two things that I do not agree entirely. Like I looked at it and I was like, seriously, the majority of people actually think this. It was really weird for me.
Which what didn't you agree with?
People are super excited to pick Legion Commander. Are you super excited to pick Legion Commander?
I'm super excited in the sense that I think she's like a good hero to pick. I don't want to ever play Legion Commander alone, but because the power level of red heroes in general is quite good, I think her card synergizes really well with heroes like Sven and heroes like Axe, for example. So I think she shines a lot due to that. And she's also a pretty decent offlane hero because having 1 armor and 4 HP and healing after battling, I think she's a pretty decent offlane hero. So I'm excited in the sense that I think that she's consistently good in draft. Not excited in the sense of oh my god, this hero is so much fun or something. But no, I think it's just that her card is very consistent.
After the rework, she got better, but I still feel that. I know she's good, but I don't feel like she's super fun. But I know she's better now. She's a good stat stick. And when it comes to stats, but I was super surprised to see the majority of people are super excited to play. I don't know. It's kind of that surprise.
What the hell is excitement though? This is the problem with this type of surveys. Is exciting might mean fun for someone, and for the next person it might mean this card just gives me the best odds of winning the draft. So for I think for everyone, excitement means something different, and I think that's part of the issue, kind of, if you will. But I don't disagree. I think I rated her quite high on most things.
Yeah, I rated her on almost 4 because I know she's really strong as a card. I just feel that she's I don't want to say not interesting. It's just I don't know. I feel like she could do much more.
What do you think about Timbersaw? Because Timbersaw was consistently considered the most fun.
Yeah,
I think
I like Timbersaw. Timbersaw is fun, and it brings interesting stuff to the table. And when we talked about red, I think if my memory doesn't fail me, Timbersaw was one of the cards that I actually said I enjoy. Timbersaw is cool. He's in a really nice place.
Yeah. So the devs write that Pugna, which was considered by most people to be a miss overall, is going to be probably what is going to be the hardest or the trickiest to fix. Because they say he's always felt kind of an odd fit, which is really interesting because, if Pugna was ever going to be good, it would be now because of the courier improvement, right? Pugna destroys the courier. So you would think people would be kind of excited for Pugna right now, but not even with that.
So that's where that's one of the points that actually got me by surprise. I know that Pugna is a hard hero to go around, and it was actually one of the heroes that we had most difficulty on saying what could be changed to make Pugna better or cooler to play. Because I don't feel, for example, he's number one on Mist Fantasy. So I don't know what people expected him to have, like confettis coming out of his eyes or something. I don't know. I feel Pugna is like stat-wise for a red hero, he's okay. His abilities are pretty much Dota. So I don't know what when I look at Mist Fantasy is like he feels like he was really well adapted, except for the mana drain, life drain, because it's kind of hard to make life drain in a card game. And they did do something that I still don't understand, which was they took the wards from Pugna and turned it into a completely different card.
Yep.
And they could just use that as his signature, and they tried to do something different. And I tip my hat to them for doing that and trying to go the life drain mode. But I just don't understand why people consider him to be Mist Fantasy when I feel that he was nicely adapted from Dota.
Yeah, I don't know about the Mist Fantasy. I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I think, like, if you guys are interested on like more of a deeper understanding of what we were talking about, we have the podcast about this, so you can check that out. I think he's not an easy hero because his channel ability that they try to replicate doesn't really work in a card game, and the other ability would be an AoE, and I think they wanted to steer away from that because Red probably shouldn't have AoEs, I guess. And they wanted to really force him to destroy tower improvements, but it just doesn't feel like that's something that people really want to do. And I just kind of keep getting the feeling like he's probably going to be reverted to black. I'm not sure, but it just feels like maybe the solution for him is really the denying mana, or at least that's the feeling that I keep getting. But he had the Nether Ward in 1.0 and didn't get any love. Another alternative is just to go back to the original, like you were saying, get the Nether Ward and maybe just buff it or something. But who knows, man? Who knows?
The way it works right now. So you remember when Dragon Knight was putting debuffs? He was putting enchants on the tower and destroying his own stuff. Yep. So I expected, since Pugna was destroys an enchantment, a tower enchantment, maybe at that time they didn't want that to hit it itself. I don't know. I expect they did lines of thought and tests, and maybe that was one of the reasons. But it could totally work as it's a debuff. And
Dude, I think anyway the thing to take away from here is that people's general impression, and mind you, a lot of these people that's answered the survey probably aren't in the beta anyway, so this is like a really mixed bag of opinions. But I think it's still useful information in the sense of you get the general impression, is the card fun or not? And it doesn't matter if people are in the beta or not, because people who have never played the game before and are going to want to play it, they're going to want to look at the cards and think, okay, this looks like fun and I want to play it. So you want people who haven't played the beta to also give their opinions. And I'm happy that Pugna and Centaur most likely are going to get some sort of transformation here. Potentially Tiny, I don't know. They say that, not Tiny, sorry, Tidehunter, because apparently people have also complained that Tidehunter needs buffs. I would be kind of on the fence, because I think Tidehunter might be a very good hero in Constructed. He's just definitely not great in Draft.
Tidehunter is like a sleeper hero. I remember people in 1.0 saying he was trash, and he's not good. He's just like a Swiss Army knife. And I think he was well adapted into 2.0. I still feel he's really good.
Yep.
So I find it weird that he might get. So they avoid him picking, because when you're drafting, and I expect people mostly think of draft when they do this, because in Constructed, in a mid-range control deck, he's good. But if you're picking stuff in draft, normally you're going to avoid him because his stats aren't that good. And in a draft where you can't control the cards you get in your deck, he's not going to be like the best thing ever. But I expect that's why people say they avoid picking him, because like you said, in Constructed, he's probably really, really good.
I think it's just a thing of, like, he has a very specific skill set. and you want that specific skill set when you're doing some type of coordinated thing. And right now, Hero Draft isn't something where you can set up a plan or game strategy, right? You just go with the flow, like you said, with the cards that you get. And Tidehunter requires you to like design a deck, and then he's gonna fit a certain role in that deck, be it stunning a whole team, being getting more quick casts things in your deck, or just pure stalling because he's got a big butt. But anyway, so guys, this week, please fill in the green survey that that Valve has shared with us. We have discussed the green heroes also last week, so if you want to hear about that, go on and have a look at our previous episode. We're going to focus on black this week because that's the announced survey for next week. As always, you can head on to the official Discord if you want to join the discussions there, and you can also join our Discord if you want to talk about it there, because we do talk about those things there as well. Just before we start, there was also another sneaky patch, as they have been doing every week, these slightly sneaky small patches. And I think there's actually relevant stuff here because they've changed Vanessa, Rubik, and Pierpont. So there was a sneaky blue buff patch before we get into the blue hero discussion. I think they did well. I'm super happy to see that Rubik's spell steal changed to 1 mana. This is huge, dude. This is huge. This makes Rubik so much better. Like, really, I think Rubik is going to be... Because of this change, I think Rubik can be it can be a centerpiece in, I think, mono blue decks, because it gives you initiative, as other blue hitters do, but just 1 mana with quick casts to steal a spell and just throw it back at your opponent's face. I think this is going to be actually potentially really obnoxious to play against, but I think makes him a really good hero now.
I think the bigger problem is it used to be a bit not expensive, but you had to pay a big chunk of mana, and they would be reduced the spell in the same amount of mana that you paid. But sometimes you wouldn't have enough mana to play a big spell because it doesn't matter.
Well, I think it's just like before, if you were only gaining mana if you stole like something costing at least 6 mana, right? Mm-hmm. And even 6 probably you weren't gaining, you're just kind of staying neutral. And as we've been seeing, really, people are for the most part avoiding playing really expensive spells because they're so draining on your mana. And so I think this is a very needed adjustment to make him playable, because who's going to be wanting to steal a 2 mana spell or a 1 mana spell? And I'm sure that's going to be the case often, that you want to steal a really cheap spell. And, things like Nyx's signature, Omni's signature, all these cards are going to be really relevant, I think, in the constructed field. And so this makes him really, really playable. So props to Valve. I'm really happy to see this.
Even telekinesis got better.
No, actually, I think it got worse. You could switch them into any spot before, I think.
Yeah, but now it's cross lane.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
So you can just throw them into another lane and win the lane. I
thought it was a nerf. I thought it was a nerf to counterbalance
it's cross lane now. So
great.
It's even better.
Great to know. So I'm happy. Like, this is all that I've been wishing for, is like buffs everywhere. So Pierpont now gets also a new passive ability called Expose the Truth. It's got Pierce, and it has +1 attack per card revealed in opponent's hand. So he's going to be he's going to be slapping harder than he used to, because he was basically like in draft, for example. Dude, you never pick this guy because he's just so weak.
Even in constructed, he was a niche.
Definitely. So this makes him definitely more viable. We'll have to play around with him to see how much. And then Vanessa also gets a new passive ability, Overcharge Artificer.
She gets the very interesting one.
Okay, equipped items give Vanessa +1 to the... I read it this morning, but I was working, so I haven't really thought about it. Equipped items give Vanessa +1 to the relevant attribute. Okay. Items equipped by Vanessa have a maximum of 1 cooldown.
That is so good. That is so broken with certain items.
This is very good in econ decks, right? So I guess she gets automatically better in item decks, econ decks.
Like she can use She can
use Horn of the Alpha
every turn. Every turn.
Sheepstick, so she can stun 2 heroes. She can lock 2 heroes in. Wow, okay. It's a very expensive item, but sounds interesting.
But still, it's cool that she actually gets better stats. So if you put a sword on her, it gets +1 attack.
Actually,
Plus one.
even phase boots, man. So a phase boots on her gives +4 HP, and she can swap every round.
Every round, yeah,
that sounds pretty good, actually.
She in my list, she got up like 2 tiers.
This is good. Okay.
Blue got some love, man.
So blue got some love in terms of attack damage and in terms of interaction with opponents. So that seems good.
Pierre Prawn is the only one that I think he might need a little bit more, but we'll have to see and test and see what happens.
All right. Otherwise, they tightened up some stuff. They cleared up some wordings. A couple of things that I want to talk about here, just really quick. First of all, what the hell, Valve? Wraithfire Blast, so this is Wraith King's card, if I'm not mistaken, can no longer target friendly units. What?
Let me just say something. Con, it's +4 because she gets +1 stat. So it's the boots give +3, but it gets to +4.
Exactly.
Because she gets +1 stat.
So, bruh, Wraithfire Blast can no longer target friendly units. Why would they do this? What's the, like...
You were trying to kill your own heroes? I don't know.
I mean, there might be some very corner case scenarios where you want to stun your own units, but why would they not want you to do that, though? That's the weird part.
Because you might want to kill your own units because it gives DK, so you might want to remove a hero from that lane and just kill it.
But why do you think that's? I mean, that's not like super abusive or something. It's just this strikes me as weird.
I can assure you that someone found some crazy ass combo that got reported a lot and made the devs fix it.
Dude, I bet some dev was playing and misclicked Wraithfire Blast into one of his own heroes, and he was like, "Fuck this card, man! I'm nerfing it." And then
no, I expect that there was some crazy combo that we don't know about, and it got
strange. Okay, very strange. All right, just wanted to mention that because I looked at that and I thought, what? Okay. Now, more seriously, though, the number of maximum enchantments per tower is now 5, matching the visual display. So I know there have been people trying to put a lot of improvements on the lane. Like in 1.0, that used to kind of... it looked really weird. Like you could go to a really large number and then I think it would start destroying them randomly or something. But it was almost impossible to reach. I guess I've never hit 5 enchantments, but I think a big point is to notice that why would they do this again? Like, this is probably another limitation due to mobile, right? I don't see why else you would want to limit someone from doing like a dedicated enchantment deck or something like that.
I don't know. They just felt like they should cap it. I also feel that it kind of points to mobile. It might not even have to do with mobile, but our first thoughts is, okay, this is also a mobile restriction. It might not be. It might be something not too much. They don't want too much stuff on the screen. Maybe if you have too much enchantments, then something gets funky. So I don't know. I actually never went past like 3 tower enchantments.
Yeah, so. I've definitely had 3. I don't think I've ever hit 5. And honestly, like I really, really hope that this never becomes an issue. But you just know that people like Sir Action Slacks are just going to be like, people like to do meme decks, dude. And that's like a really common meme deck is to have the improvement deck or the enchantment deck now, I guess. So I just hope it doesn't bother anyone or that it never happens, that it becomes an actual problem. I guess you can always put enchantments somewhere else.
The question is, if you put more than 5, would the icon disappear? Because the way they say it, the way they wrote it down.
Probably you just have to sack one, like you do with the slots, right? Because I mean... there is some kind of parallel with the lane slots, right? You've got 5 slots for your units, now you have 5 slots for the tower. So following the same logic, I would expect that if you really want to deploy an enchantment in that lane, you have to choose which slot to use, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Still, it's like they're cutting a little bit more freedom in the game, because I don't know if 1.0 you could have infinite enchantments, but still it won't affect like 95% of the community, because no one is going to put like 5 enchantments unless you make a special deck for that. So It's not as annoying as only being able to have 10 cards in your hand, for example, but it's still a restriction.
Yeah, okay. It's kind of minimal. I just thought it was worth saying because, again, it's just like one of these little details where you get the feeling that they are really aiming towards the mobile crowd. But yeah, hopefully this doesn't really become an issue. Of course, I would prefer, as everyone knows by now, I think, I would prefer not to have any limits, but that's just me.
Kansei's DMZD, I never know how to say his name, DMZDA, was broke it last week.
Yeah, apparently. He was trying to overload with enchantments, and it seems like if you put too many, they just drop into the center lane. I'm not sure if you made a video about it, but anyway, guys, you can find DMZDA. I think that's how he says his own nick.
Z.
Even though no one says that. Please correct us, DMZ, if that's not the case. But yeah. So experimenting, going around, good to know, etc. Let's focus on some black heroes, guys. So, Brad, do you want to start? Go for it. Hit me.
One more time.
Hit me with your best shot.
Okay, so this I'm going to talk about two black heroes. Okay, I'm going to start with a rework that I like, and then a rework that I do not like. Okay, so let's pick up Debbie. You already have it on screen. For me, Debbie is one of those reworks that I feel like they nailed it. She's like a basic hero, and she felt okay-ish in 1.0. And 2.0, I feel that she fits like a niche. Okay, she was just like this chick. Okay, let's call her a chick that would do a little bit more damage to towers and had some decent removal. Okay, now I feel that they made it so she can go into the concept of siege decks and tower destruction, and now every time she hits the tower, it's not just doing 2 damage, she's gonna hurt. She's gonna put a +1 armor in that tower, and it's gonna stack, and after she hits the tower twice, oh boy, it's gonna get messy on the other side. And she gets +1 armor every time she hits a tower. So I feel that they made her so much better. They buffed it instead of like doing some crazy shenanigans. They picked a hero that was supposed to hit towers because she already was doing more damage when she would hit the tower, and they made it even better at that. And her signature card now does 2 damage, but gives Feeble, which is like so good when she's facing a creep, for example, or if she like a hero that has like 3 HP and she does that, and you're gonna hit the tower and kill the hero. So it's, I don't know. I feel that her rework is like really, really good. And for me, she was one of the best reworks in the game for basic hero, for example, compared to other basic heroes, except Farvren. I think she's like either the first or second best basic hero rework that they did.
I kind of agree. And what I wanted to add to your description that I think is kind of really relevant is the fact that the new deployment rules really buffed Debbie. Okay, like it's one of the hardest buffed heroes by the new deployment rules. Any hero that kind of triggers on hitting a tower or benefits from hitting a tower got decently buffed by the new deployment rules, because you can pretty much almost guarantee or have a very good shot at hitting the tower. And Debbie is like, I think right now, the biggest snowball hero, where if she hits a tower 3 times, she becomes super hard to kill with 2-3 armor, and your opponent kind of just gives up the lane, or at least that's my experience in draft. Okay, it's not like super advanced expert draft, and it depends a lot on who you catch, but if you commit to Debbie in the first 2-3 rounds, she feels really good. And I think that's kind of a common topic in with some black heroes, also with like Shadow Fiend or something, is really a snowbally hero where if you protect him, if you dedicate the first turns of the round to him, he's gonna
He turns into a beast.
Yeah, he's gonna turn into a beast, and he's gonna take over his corner of the game. And I think Debbie does that. So I really like Debbie. I've actually been in the Discord trying to give feedback and so on, and I couldn't really tell you what to do.
I wouldn't touch her. I feel she doesn't need a change.
I think
she's pretty good.
Yeah, someone was suggesting lowering her card cost to 1 mana. I think it would make it.
No, don't.
It would make it very, very good.
That is OP. That is the wrong type of OP that we want.
Yeah, it's interesting to consider. I'm not sure exactly if it would be OP, but certainly would be very good. And I think it's in a good spot right now, so I'm not sure if it's worth touching it, especially because it's a basic hero. Like,
if it cost 1 mana and did 1 damage and gave Feeble, it would still be too strong. Because I feel that even with 2 mana, and I know they made it cheaper because mana is restricted now, but giving Feeble is, you might not expect it, but it gets you when you're not. I mean, like, imagine you have like a 14/14 on a table, and then suddenly you just give something Feeble, and then you cry because you can't work around Feeble. Unless you dispel it. So I wouldn't make it cheaper. I think 2 mana is pretty good.
Yeah, I've been playing around with her a little bit in constructed, and I think she's constructed playable right now. She might require some dedication and some really low curve and so on, but I think she's probably playable. And I won't go too much into that, but there's some cool ideas that I played around with her, but I won't go into that. All right. So I think that's Debbie. I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna just say it. I think black is the most interesting color in terms of hero design for me. So for the most part, I'm quite happy with what they've done with black. There's a really good mix of stuff. It might be due to the fact that black has some really cool interaction with gold and other stuff, and mana denial and so on, which are abilities that I personally really like. And that's the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about Anti-Mage. I was really hyped when we first discovered that Anti-Mage was in the game.
I wasn't.
I was, because I was really interested to see what they were going to do with it. And having played with it now, unfortunately, I think he's lacking somewhat. So his card, let's start with his card, Mana Void. So if you don't know, this is a 5 mana spell.
Yeah. Tell me how many times you got screwed on. I'm gonna pass because I want him to spend mana and do like this big damage, and then the other guy just passes, and then you go into combat and get screwed.
That's the problem right now with Mana Void, exactly that it's just very obvious when you want to Mana Void unless it's very late in the game. So what happens a lot is that if you are like in the round 4, round 5, if you're hovering around 6, 7 mana, it's just super obvious when you're gonna Mana Void, unless your opponent really really has a really huge play to do that. He's just gonna be able to ignore Mana Void. I mean, I have hit some really decent Mana Voids, but for the most part, it feels like it just feels too obvious, you know? So it feels like the card might need to be a little bit cheaper. And it's going to be super tricky, because if you make it too cheap, the card's just going to be completely obnoxious, where your opponent is going to be super afraid to play something. But I think I kind of feel like I would like to try Mana Void at 4 mana, because it might feel less bad. That's just one thing that I wanted to mention.
But still, if they have an Anti-Mage and you know you're in the 4th turn, so I expect that it would do less damage. So early game it would be meh, and late game wouldn't you like play around this?
Yeah,
as much as you could. So I think
the other problem is you can play around it very easily. Yeah.
I think the idea would be, you need more ways to burn mana to be able to then play this, and they tried to do that. But I think he should burn mana in a very different way, because the way they made him burn mana is very weird.
All right, what I'm going to say now might seem really controversial, but here's the problem. Like, a lot of times it happens, or at least I felt like that, where I really wanted to Blink Strike, because, okay, let me read the ability for people who don't know. So his Mana Break is a passive ability, like in Dota, where he burns 1 mana of the opponent if he deals battle damage to an enemy before combat. Obviously, because burning mana in combat is useless. Although they could make it so that you would burn 1 mana for next round, but that's beside the point. His active ability is Blink, has a 3-round cooldown, and he moves up to 5 slots, and he deals 1 battle damage to the unit blocking him. So what happens a lot, I think, in my experience is like I really want to Blink, deny a mana, and Mana Void, or something like that. And it's just too expensive, man. It's just 6 mana. It's like, it's too much. So it just feels kind of awkward to play with him, where sometimes you want to blink him away for movement purposes, sometimes you want to move him for burning mana purposes, and just doing his whole thing is just very clunky.
Yeah. It's not a cross lane. So if they want to make it so you. Yeah, Blink is not cross lane.
It is.
It is cross lane?
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's cross lane, that explains why it's a 3-turn cooldown. So if it wasn't cross lane, I would keep it like 2 mana cooldown, maybe. So you could actually do... Because you're not going to burn mana any other way. I mean, unless you duel or something, or it's not going to happen.
You cannot. I mean, the problem is that like Duel is a red card. You could gank with Anti-Mage, but he's so like small that for the most part he's gonna die if you gank with him. And the other thing that for me is really not working well right now with Mana Denial is that you have, for most circumstances right now in the game, for you to try to deny mana to the opponent, you're gonna have to spend more mana than the opponent does. So it's like, I want to deny my opponent 1 mana, but in order to do that, I have to spend 1 mana as well. And so I almost kind of would like to see Blink Strike at 0 mana, you know, like where you keep the cooldown at 3, that's fine, you leave it as is, but you make it cost 0 mana so that you can Blink, deny a mana, where you come out of that fight, you come out of that equation earning or gaining 1 mana. That doesn't sound broken. And then maybe making Mana Void a little bit cheaper. But there's many ways to go about this. It just feels like he's not found his place just yet. But I do like the idea of the Mana Denial, and I completely understand why they're not trying to make it like overly strong, because it's very oppressive. But
yeah, but there's I think the biggest issue, and I know why it's combat damage, because if it wasn't combat damage, it would be fucking insane. You could just put like Ignite on him and you deny like 4 to 5 mana if you wanted. So I know it has to be combat damage because of that, but it's so hard to, well, it's not hard, but there's not that many ways and cheap ways to do combat damage before combat. So
I think though that what you're suggesting is anyway impossible, I think, because I think you can only Ignite on blue heroes, right? Let me check.
Okay, but forget Ignite. There's an item.
It has to be an enchant caster, so you cannot.
Okay, so forget Ignite. There's this item that makes you deal 1 damage to anything adjacent to you. So
Infernal something, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be an option. So the thing is, you'd be burning like 3 mana, and that would be bonkers.
I wonder if that works though. Is it the item that deals the damage, or is it the hero?
It doesn't matter because it has to be combat damage. So. If you do damage, if it was just damage,
let's see. That would be interesting. Like I would like to see that.
Yeah, so that would be a way if it wasn't combat damage, and you'd be able. So, but that would be really strong. I mean, like at the beginning of every turn that he was alive, if you would position him correctly, you'd be like denying 3 mana to your opponent. That's like insane. So I understand why they put it to be combat damage, but. There's not many ways at the moment, and like who knows if more cards get added or in future expansions. Like we've played other card games, and there's like sleeper stuff that you look at it in this expansion, it's crap, and then another expansion comes out, and there's like 2 or 3 cards that make it work, and the card suddenly gets into the meta, and it's pretty strong. But as is, I feel that he can't shine.
Yeah.
You just can't make him shine.
Yeah, like I said, for the most part, I'm quite happy with where Black is. I just think like this is such a iconic hero. Would kind of like him to be like the flagship hero for Mana Denial strategies, and that's not the case right now. And it could just be that Pugna might join him, and that would be cool. But we'll see. Do you wanna introduce another hero?
Okay, so rework that I really have an issue with, Sorla. Sorlakan.
That's yeah, okay. Go on.
Okay, so Sorla was like this hit hard but very squishy hero, and now she is not a hit hard, very squishy hero. She still does additional damage to the tower, but she's not an 8/4, right? It was an 8/4.
She would hit for 12, so yeah, she was 8, yeah.
She was 8/4, and now she's a 4/4 that does two more damage. Can you read the card?
Yeah, she deals 2 more damage to the tower.
So
she hits for 6.
she does half damage to the tower that she would do.
So she got nerfed, basically.
Yeah. I had a siege deck, still have it, and we talked about this. At a certain point, I actually considered removing Sorla and trying Pugna, for example, and not being a full mono black deck, and try to spice it up and put Pugna in it. The thing is, ladders is just so good that it's really hard to remove. So at this point, like I said last episode, I really weight stuff in like card is 50%, the signature is the other 50%. I feel Assault Ladders is like insanely good because at a certain point, you're giving Feeble to like half of the lane. And it's really good. And the aura that makes all allies give the +1 damage like it used to do is pretty good. And Sorla used to be like, okay, you either block me and lose your hero, because she would do 8 damage and not many heroes could stand 8 damage. But now she's just like this average 4/4 that there's like better heroes doing the stat wise thing.
I completely understand what you're saying. Like she's such a like an iconic lore hero in the sense of like the whole story kind of revolves around her. She's a central piece of the Call to Arms story and set. And then to see her be like a 4/4 hitting the tower for 6, that basically dies to anything you put in front of her. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, because like if you didn't block her, she would do 12 damage. Even if she was a monster, and she would get out of control if you didn't block her like twice. If you let her hit the tower twice, you'd be in trouble. Now I don't feel that she hits as fast. She just doesn't have the same impact that she used to have, and she dies to almost everything like she used to. But she was supposed to die to everything because she had so much attack. But now she doesn't feel like she has that much attack, and she dies to like. Well, she doesn't die to blue. Well, hooray!
Well, I think here's the problem, and I think I've said this at some point. I think on the podcast, she used to deal 12 tower damage. Okay, that means in the old game, basically, if she hits the tower 3 times, she's basically killed the tower because that's 36 damage. Okay, that's insane. But okay, let's be mathematically correct. She has to hit the tower 4 times to get the tower down by herself without anyone helping her. Mm-hmm. Right now, if you play draft, she has to hit the tower 5 times to kill the tower. So that's already like that's where you start to see how she got nerfed.
Yeah.
If you're playing her in constructed, like we were when we were playing, and you played the siege deck against me, that's another 2 hits on top. Okay, so you're talking about 7 hits, right? If I'm doing the math correctly in my head. So 7 hits. 7 hits is a lot, dude. 7 hits is a lot.
That's too much.
And it just loses that crispiness of feeling like, damn, this is a really powerful hero, and I cannot leave this hero by itself over there because I really have to go there and stop it. And right now, I mean, it's like you say, her card feels really good, but I'm like, for example, I'm way more concerned about the Debbie hitting my tower than I am about the Sorla, because I know the Sorla can be stopped later on, whatever. So yeah, it is kind of an awkward spot to be in. Like, do you have any changes that you thought about maybe suggesting for her?
So if they don't want to touch the stats, if they want to leave her at 4/4, I'd say that when she hits the tower, she needs to debuff it. And so Debbie puts less armor. I don't know. She could do something like DK or something on the tower. I don't know. I just feel that
So
as is, she just doesn't feel like a tower destroyer. That is what she's supposed to be.
yeah. If you would increase her tower damage to 7, 7, 14, 21, 29, it would still be 5 hits theoretically, but in practice it would never be 5 hits because like a creep hitting the tower or whatever.
Eventually, something would hit the tower. Yeah.
So probably would already make some sort of impact. Otherwise, you add some active ability to her, and that seems to kind of be the direction we're going in for most of the cool heroes, right? Like, okay, we talked about LC that people like, and she only has one ability, but it kind of starts to feel like the really cool heroes, the cool boys, they want to have a couple of abilities, if you know what I mean. It might just be that's what she needs.
Well, the devs said they prefer passive abilities than actives. She already has a passive though, and having 2 passives might be a little bit overkill.
Might be weird, yeah.
So either the passive needs to be a little bit buffed in a way. Because even if you make her a 5/4, I think she's gonna have the same issue.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one, right? It's a tricky one. I feel like just maybe buffing her tower damage and trying it out again to see how it feels might be a good place to start. But I don't have it's not something I've given a lot of thought to. But I do agree on the overall feeling. I think the central lore heroes should be kind of cool, and they've done a good job with Rix.
Yeah.
Apparently, people seem to be happy with LC right now, even though I feel like for the most part it's because of the place where red is generally and not for her. And for black, I don't know. I just really hope that when there is like a real constructed meta that we will actually have like aggressive Sorla decks, because in 1.0 that was actually never really the case. She just
so I have an idea for Sorla, but I fear it could be a little bit overpowered, especially because of how the flop works now. So the same way Debbie, when hits the tower, gets 1 armor and debuffs by 1. I'd say I would put something on Sorla, like every time Sorla hits the tower, she wins. She gets +1 siege.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah.
The thing is, after she hits the tower once, oh boy, she's not stopping because now she has siege, right? Yeah. So she's gonna keep hitting and getting siege. So I don't know if that's really hard to I don't know, because it could be dispellable if you wanted to keep her on tracks, but
or it could be like OD's ability where it just lasts a couple of rounds. So basically, if she dies, she loses all of it or whatever.
For example, yeah.
And you can only have like 2 maximum charges or something. But that sounds interesting, actually.
Yeah, because Sorla is like this tower destroyer character, and so giving her like every time she hits the tower, give her +1 siege would be really cool. I just don't know how crazy she would get if, because once she hits tower, she's going to hit tower every time, unless she dies, like you said, and gets that removed.
So, I mean, now that you say that, let me tell you what I meant to say before with Debbie, and I didn't. I made this deck with Lady Anshu. You know Lady Anshu, right? The one that sacrifices and brings heroes from the fountain. So my goal was I put Debbie and Sorla on the 4th and 5th position, and my what I wanted to do was just sacrifice Lady Anshu round 1 and drop Sorla and Debbie like on the first turn of the game onto the board in the same lane. You see?
The pain.
Let me tell you.
It's fun.
Let me tell you how satisfying that is when that shit happens.
I can imagine the guy on the other side going like, "You mother!"
Just slapping that tower, and it's pretty cool. And Lady Anshu comes back immediately as well, which is just
what I did. It's a bit expensive, but it's fun. What I did was I put Vestures on Debbie and had Rix Oathbound signature on a lane, and I just catapulted her every turn. So she would deal damage and debuff it, and next turn I'd do the exact same thing and the exact same thing and the exact same thing. Yeah. But this was before Rix got nerfed.
Yeah. Well, in any case, dude, we've played a few Siege decks, and I think Siege is not in such a bad place. It feels like the mono black aggro actually might be viable. Of course, this is all without knowing, like having a settled meta, but like for the most part, I've played some frustrating games against Mono Black Siege where it's like, oh boy, what can I actually do? And
it's my favorite archetype right now.
All right, so we still have a bit of time before we close this down.
You still have your one hero to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm still torn. Like I was looking at the list, thinking about exactly what to talk about, and I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about Winter Wyvern. I think that's how you pronounce it. All right, so Winter Wyvern, she's a pretty cool lore character as well. She's decently statted 4/5. She's got the new ability, the reworked ability Arctic Burn, which has a 2-round cooldown, so pretty good. And she gains +3 attack, and she moves up to 3 slots, which is cross lane as well. And she gives +2 decay to each enemy passed. All right. So for the most part, I've played this hero in draft a few times, and the hero itself feels okay. How to put it, dude? Decay is just kind of a slightly unsatisfying mechanic, where it's like with Wraith King when you stun a hero and you're just like, if the damage was just instantaneous instead of decay, it would feel so much better, But she's pretty good at killing creeps. It's just that for the most part, melee creeps, they die to themselves anyway, and so giving minus decay to them is generally not super effective. So, okay, I don't have a huge problem with Arctic Burn. I would prefer that she would deal instant damage instead of decay. What I've been thinking a little bit about is her card, Winter's Curse.
The decay is a buff, right? Because she do exactly the same thing that she does right now, but no decay on
Definitely, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. But I also wonder, would it be more effective to just have move 5 slots instead of having the decay, or simply just dealing instantaneous 1 damage? Because I think for the most part she's not a super exciting hero. That's why I'm saying that. I don't think she's bad or anything. It was definitely a buff. But
if it was instant damage, don't know if it would be too strong. It had to be like 1 damage, like for example Timbersaw does.
Well, I mean, right now it definitely doesn't feel too strong. Let me tell you that. I don't know if you've played with Wyvern, but it doesn't feel too strong.
I only drafted her twice, maybe.
Yeah, but my main point here is her card. Okay, so this is a black card, 5 Winter's Curse. It's a spell, stuns an enemy, which is also a buff. It didn't used to do this. And it's attacked. The stunned enemy is then attacked by its allied neighbors. So let's look at the rate on this card. Okay, stunning an enemy for 5 is definitely relatively expensive. Red can do that for 3. Green can do that for 2. So paying 5 for a stun is pretty expensive.
Well, but green can do that for 2 if you're playing that shit card called Dragon Knight, because no one does.
No question. Well, there's other options like Sand King can stun with his ability, but that's besides the point. 5 mana is definitely too expensive for a stun. So we have to look at the rest of the cards to kind of analyze what it does, right? It's attacked by its allied neighbors. It's very situational. Even in draft, there's a lot of situations where you don't get the effect that you wanted, which would be killing the enemy. Okay, silver lining is you stun it. But then you go over to blue and you look at, what is it called? Friendly Fire.
Where 2 creatures or 2 targets fight each other.
Exactly. So let me put that up on the screen. Friendly Fire. This is basically the same card as in Artifact 1. It just costs 5 now. You choose 2 enemies and they battle each other. So this is basically just like on the front cost, I think, pretty much better than Winter's Curse, because since you have more selection and it's not position dependent, you can much easier kill a couple of units. Where with Winter's Curse, that's often not the case. And because that's often not the case, stunning an enemy for 5 feels very expensive. So I don't know if they should revert Winter's Curse to some sort of black friendly fire. Say stun an enemy. And then you choose another unit, and that unit attacks Winter Wyvern.
Well,
she's
that's not.
stunned, so she doesn't return the damage back. So in terms of battling rate, it's still worse than friendly fire, kind of.
Yeah, but well, Winter's Curse is working like it's supposed to in Dota, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing that they changed from the 1.0 to 2.0 is they now stun, and it's 1 mana cheaper because I think it was 6.
Well, what about that then? If you want to make it like true to Dota, what if all other allied units attack her instead of just the allied neighbors?
Well, it has to be allied neighbors because when you use when you would use Winter's Curse, for example, in Dota, if you're not close enough to whoever gets Winter's Curse, you won't attack it.
Yeah, it's an AoE spell, so I guess it just depends what the radius is for it.
Yeah, neighbors. To be honest, I think you just need to make it cheaper, like 4 mana, and the what it does is pretty okay.
Yeah, I just wish it was a little bit slightly less situational, but I guess if you make the stun, I mean, Mirana, for example, is stunning for 4 mana, so it would make it more on rate at least, I guess. But anyway, I think I just wanted to throw that out there and add to the discussion. So, guys, if you have any thoughts, if our discussion also creates some new thoughts, go over to the Discord and post your feedback over there so that Valve can have a look at that. Talking about feedback, dude, there's been a lot of discussions going on Reddit. I don't know if you have any strong feelings about what the subreddit has become in the past couple of weeks. If you want to quickly talk about that before we close today's episode.
Yeah, the sun burns. You got to stop moving, man, because there's like either the sunset is happening behind you. I'm getting like epilepsy is coming really fast right now. You got to stop. Okay, so Reddit.
The sun burns.
Reddit is a problematic place. Because people feel that they can say whatever they want. There's no consequences.
That's just the internet, though. Like that's not Reddit.
Yeah. Okay, I just said it. The internet, not Reddit. Okay, so I normally don't give much attention to Reddit because I feel that's where the trolls are lurking. If you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that Reddit is fueled by hatred and spite, because when we were in the long haul, the people who were still in the Dota part of Reddit, people were like motivated and the moon days and let's hope that something comes out and let's make Artifact great again and stuff. And now we got like a new game, a beta, an option to give feedback, and devs have shown more than once that they actually listen and they're open to try stuff that we've been giving feedback on. So I think we've never been better when it comes to communication between Valve and us. And for the last year, having zero stuff from Artifact and now having so much stuff happening at the same time, people should be happy. I know a lot of people might not agree with the 2.0 or the way stuff is happening, but god damn it, we've been given like a restart to the game and we're being allowed to participate on giving feedback and opinions and make the game be something more than we like and not something that other people design in their head and feel like this is how it has to be played. So I cannot understand why all the hate, because the way I understand it from what you told me, what's happening in Reddit right now is people bash because they need to bash. People spit out poison because that's what they do. The game could be the best thing ever, and they would still bash it. And they would still say it's bad because something happened. So I tend to avoid reading much on Reddit right now since the game started, because when the first waves came out, like they said they were going to give random keys and people were like, that's the right way. And then they gave out keys and people went and I didn't get a key, this way sucks. And there's people playing who don't even know how to play. So people don't even know what they want sometimes in Reddit, and they just spit out poison because they can, and there's no consequences. But then again, that's the internet. So I don't know. I don't know what your opinion is on the really bad feedback, and I feel that a lot of people who give out that negative feedback don't even have a key, so they haven't even played. They just watch some streams and formed an opinion without playing. And some of them are like, oh, so now we can't play the 3 lanes and the mana is restricted, the game is trash, blah, 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 give me 1.0 back. But they haven't even played. I mean, I've said this before. The first time I saw the new reworked version, and there was like only 1 lane, in a way that there's like not a 3-turn play every turn. You're playing all the 3 lanes at the same time, and there's like limited mana, for example. My first opinion was like, oh god, why? No, this is not Artifact. And then I played it and I'm actually enjoying it. So I think people are giving bad opinions, bashing. They don't even play the game. And how can you like look at what they're saying, say, oh, he's right. He hasn't even played the game. And I'm not saying everyone that gave bad feedback has not played the game, but I'm pretty much able to bet that more than 50 to 60% of the people who are putting bashful stuff and saying 2.0 is not good or whatever haven't even touched the game. So why should I listen? Why should I take feedback from a guy who hasn't even played? Because he watched 1 hour of someone playing a game, and that guy who played the game might not even be good because, like I said, they gave random keys, and there's people playing who barely played 1.0. So why should I listen and expect that all that bashful stuff on Reddit should be given like time to read and stuff like that? So I just tend to not go to Reddit and read much of it. I scroll down bashful posts, just I don't even open it and read because I know what's going to be in there. Like someone who probably hasn't played or just feels like the old mechanics were better. I bet that guy thinks the mechanics were better, but he has like less than 40 hours of gameplay. So what gives? So that's my opinion on that. And I bet I said this, and in 2-3 hours, there's going to be like a post on Reddit saying that dumbass from the Long Haul Podcast just went and trashed, blah, blah, blah. He knows nothing. What the fuck does he know? Yada, yada, yada. So that's going to happen.
My opinion is more nuanced. I definitely spend too much time on Reddit. I will say that. How to say? People might disagree with me. I don't think that Reddit represents the general community at all. Okay, I don't think Reddit represents the people who signed up for the beta at all. If anything, people like me maybe post a lot. They become kind of louder and like easier to hear just because we're more repetitive when we post there all the time. So I think there's some bias, especially for the people who were actual long haulers and were posting and playing and actually actively contributing to the subreddit during the past year before the game, gained a bit of a flame again. So it's natural that those people who never actually like completely forgot about the game, that they are going to be more active and feel stronger about the game, and they're going to be wanting to share their opinions more often on there, I think. And because of that, there's a sub-minority, I think, that becomes louder than everyone else. And then you add to that a new minority, which is beta key holders. I don't think we should be bashing the opinion of people who haven't played the game because, I've already said it. I think people who have never played 1.0 and they're looking for a new card game to play, they come over and the first impression is huge. This is a very early beta. The game is going to look ugly, yada, yada, yada. But the first impressions are going to be huge. And so lately there's clearly a wave of more negative posts, and obviously I have no fucking idea. I don't control the posts one by one to know who the hell is posting them, but there is definitely a wave of negativity on the sub. Does that represent everyone else? I don't think so. but I think it's definitely something that we should be paying attention to. I don't think we should be ignoring this. And I personally, like, I was very negative for quite a while, and lately I've been trying to be less negative, or at least be less loud about it. But I think these things share, sharing is not the word, like these things are kind of infectious, right? Like if everyone is giving bad opinions, I think it's very easy to share the opinions by osmosis, even if you haven't played. And even if you have played, like,
Dude.
I don't know, even in our Discord, bro, most people there that talk about the game seem kind of disappointed with what they've been presented so far.
I mean, we're in the beginning of the beta. This is like an early stage. So we're supposed to play the game, give feedback, and like in 3 weeks, a lot of stuff changed.
Mm-hmm.
Things, and not for the worst. Well, except for this the five improvements in the tower has been the only thing that has been come out that I remember that is actually more how do you say limiting. All the other stuff has been buffs and changes to stuff people said. And I mean, you're saying we shouldn't. There was a post in Reddit that had like more than 100 comments on a guy that was complaining about the mana icons being ugly. There was a post in Reddit full of flashing. It had 100 comments.
I am in no way referring to those posts. People who create a post like that, it's like you say, you have to ignore that shit. You have to have some basic.
Oh, I do. I stopped opening stuff after that because, like,
come on, you have to have some basic level of knowing where to separate the trash from the pile of shit.
you start bashing that, and then there was I'm not sure if it was. I think it was God. What I can't. I'm sorry if I say his name wrong. Snipuffin, yeah. Snipuffin. He was like streaming. It was like 1 a.m. here, and I wasn't. I felt like watching someone playing it because I was in bed, and I was watching his stream, and there was this guy that was like, literally for like 15 minutes, he was like, "Oh my God, what's the art of this game?" And someone was like, "This is beta." But why did they launch it like that? Because this is beta. But it looks ugly. Yeah, man, it's placeholder art, and it's not that ugly. There's pretty cool placeholder art, and he kept going at this and going at this, and this stuff is contagious because then more people are gonna like, yeah, it's ugly. Oh, we should wait and see stuff later. I mean, I know it's ridiculous and it's like trolly stuff. Maybe he might even be trolling. But this stuff gets contagious, and it gets pretty stupid really fast.
You have to have some common sense here, though, and I think Valve has stated that the beta is going to be up to 18 months long. If you consider Valve time, that's really a long time. It's going to be way more than that, probably. And you have to remain optimistic because, like you say, it's an early beta. And I got maybe criticized or bashed a little bit because people were saying like, you're not long hauling anymore. You have the beta, and let me tell you, like I'm gonna be long hauling until this thing is officially out, and I can say, okay, it's done. It's a finished product. I like it or I dislike it, whatever. That's when my long haul ends, dude. Like my long haul did not end when I got the beta, and I think if people are in the mindset that their long haul ended when they got the beta key, then they're in the wrong mindset. If you are in the beta, you should be helping us try the game and improve the game and working towards something that you like. This is not a finished product. And it's normal that if it's not a finished product and we're trying to improve the game as a community, that there's going to be negative posts. But you have to also think that the negative posts help correct the bad things. Okay, so you have to think providing criticism isn't inherently bad, unless it's complete bullshit like what you just said about art or how the mana crystals look or whatever. That's absolutely useless, but anyone with a brain knows that those things are useless. So I'm not overly concerned about Reddit being negative right now. Probably next week a big wave comes in and then whatever. We rarely hear from Russian players, Asian players, and other communities in the subreddit because it's basically only English-speaking people. So I don't know, man. It's just a subgroup, And again, I don't feel like it's representative. It's good to have a community hub there, but I think we gotta take it with a grain of salt, obviously. So I think trying not to extend the episode too long. We've talked about a bunch of stuff. We touched on the most important topics for this week, I think. So I wanted to thank everyone for watching. If you are interested in our opinions for the other colors, like I said, just go onto our YouTube channel, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the podcast. And otherwise, Carrie, thank you so much for joining me again, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys next week.